My friend Randy had called and asked me if I wanted to go out on a catamaran. He was kind of setting me up on a blind date with a friend of his, Daniel, and he owned the boat, and so I said sure. We went out on a 17-foot catamaran. This was very small, so it only seated like 4 people. There's one sail in the middle. There's no cabins or anything down below. At one point, I saw some dark clouds coming up kind of far offshore, but then I saw some lightning also, and it just came really, really quick. And so by the time the guys saw it, they said, it's too late, so it's better to wait it out here instead of trying to run in and go into the storm. And unfortunately, 10, 15 minutes later, the boat ended up flipping. As I fell off, I scraped my leg on the pontoon, and the fear of shark immediately was in everyone's head. At that point, we just scrambled, and we were able to all get up on the hull, and we were able to put our knees up to our chests and be able to stay out of the water. And we just got settled there and tried to think what to do. And basically, I know we were all at the idea that it was still daylight, the storm was passing, surely there's going to be boats back out on the water. We heard an engine, and Daniel said that it was a Coast Guard cutter. And it came so close, and we were sure. We were whistling really loud. It was completely silent out there, so we just whistled really loud and yelled and screamed and everything, and it cut its engines off. Then the engines started up again, and the ship went off elsewhere. And then that was just like the reality hit us, and we were just quiet. And Christy, who was sitting in front of me, she was very quiet, and I could tell also that she was just making peace, and I just had a sense that she knew she was going to die. The crack of dawn, I just looked over, and when I saw the light, I said, that's the sun coming up. Shore's got to be the other way. I'm out of here. I'm going. Once the sun comes up, we might lose our direction, so we knew we had to go. But I think I thought I was going to die. So either way, I just wanted to die trying. And Christy was the only one that didn't know how to swim that well, so I told her about the salt water. It keeps you buoyant, so you can just float on your back, and if you get tired, we'll wait, and just do your best. And so we all took off, and I took off first. I was up in front, and it was only probably about an hour into the swim that I looked back, and I heard Christy screaming and saying that, yelling for Randy to come and get her. And I thought, first I thought she was just drowning or tired or something. I was yelling, saying just float or whatever. And then I realized I saw her thrashing about in the water, and then she went straight up, just like in the movie. In the Jaws movie, she went straight up and straight back down into the water. And I knew she'd been hit by a shark. So I yelled to Randy that it was a shark, and he thought she was drowning. So he was yelling back to her and, calling her name, and she was just, screaming, "Come and get me now." And she went up again and down, and he was swimming while this happened, and he didn't see that it was a shark. He just thought she was drowning. So the last time I saw her go up and she just went face down into the water, I knew that, I knew she was dead. It was like she was completely pale, completely white, and I knew she'd lost all her blood. I knew if he went back, he was going to get killed also or attacked, whatever. And I was a good distance ahead, and I said, there's no way, unfortunately. There's nothing I can do to help. I just knew it. And I was not. There was no way I was going to go back there. And so I just turned around and kept swimming. After about 15 minutes of swimming, 15, 20 minutes, after seeing Christy get hit by the shark, I got bumped by something, and I looked down, and it was a gray shark, bigger than I was. And I just, split-second vision of Christy and me saying, that's not how I want to go. There's no way that I can die like this. I put myself in the frame of mind of a fish, or that I belonged in the ocean. It was the weirdest thing. Just in nanoseconds, it was like, I belong here. I belong here too, so, get out of my way too. So I just kept swimming backstroke. I went slowly, of course, and as smooth as I could, but slow. And so I obviously had 15, 20 minutes of wondering if it was still under me. The currents were really, really bad, so I couldn't stop. Anytime I stopped, it would just take me back or east or north or south instead of west where I wanted to go. I didn't hear any screaming, which was one thing I was, kind of calmed me down a little bit, because I knew if they'd got hit by sharks, then I probably would have heard something, because it was so quiet out there. There was like a feeding frenzy going on. It was just a bunch of fins and just going at it. And the currents were taking me that way, so I had to start swimming against the current to go south and get around that. And once that happened, it's just, you just kept stroking. That's all I gotta say. I just kept stroking. I was hallucinating. I had a lot of thoughts. I sang most of the way, tried to keep my spirits up. I did have a lot of thoughts about my life, so then I was thinking about all these people that do die and come back. They always say their life flashes before them. Mine flashed about 6 hours of swimming. I was disoriented because with the sun up, you're still kind of losing bearings. And the currents, I was afraid of where they were going to take me. Finally, when I got almost all the way in, I couldn't break the riptide. Right there, I could see the shore, I could see the lifeguard. I went almost straight in from the boat. I ended up being in almost a straight line. I didn't have the strength to get through there. I kept trying to, just backstroke, front stroke, everything, and I thought that was it. The lifeguard did not see me, and it was just, mentally it was really, really hard, because I'd done all that work to get there, and I was just so a few feet from shore, and I thought I was gonna die. I just remembered to do, if I did side stroke, that I would cut this way instead of cutting through. If I did side stroke, that I could, break it like that. And I did side stroke, and I broke through it. And then he saw me, and he came running out and yelling at me because he thought I was a lifeguard swimming laps. I just told him instinctively, I said, I've just swam about 9 miles. There's a boat out there, one person's dead, and there's a couple of other guys, but I don't know if they're dead or alive. I went to the hospital that day and saw Randy, and he was in the hospital for, I think, about 2 weeks. He had hypothermia and all that. And Daniel, the guy that owned the boat, I don't know what happened. I didn't see him again. He also, I think, like me, went to the hospital, but then he left. And never seen him again. And I still, to this day, I won't go in dark water, but surviving that also gives you just a whole new outlook on life. Dying wasn't an option for me during that time, so I just had to keep good thoughts and say, okay, I made it another minute, I made it another 5 minutes, I made it another hour, and just keep going and thinking about, family or your future, and not giving into the negative thoughts is how I survived.